Don't touch people. Come on, keep your hands to yourself. Keep your hands. Why do you always go to violence and keying Teslas and throwing Molotov cocktails? Why do you always have to get violent? Peaceful protest. Peaceful protests. Peaceful protests. Peaceful protests.
Can someone explain to me? We protect and defend South Korea. And in exchange, they steal our automobile industry, they steal our electronics industry. We protect and defend Japan, and in exchange, they close their market to our cars. We protect and defend Canada, and they run up a massive trade deficit with us. We protect and defend all of Europe at a cost of trillions of dollars over time, and what do? They run an over $300 billion trade deficit with the United States. Why should America protect the world, send foreign aid to the world, defend the world, provide for the world, and in exchange, get ripped off by every other country in the world? And what do we have to show for it? The deindustrialization of the heartland, the destruction of the American dream, the eradication of our industrial and manufacturing base that we need for our national security, and the crushing of the American dream. It has to stop, not to mention $36 trillion in debt.
I almost tweeted out, Dave, how much are you down right now and today? 7 million. I'm down $7 million in stocks and crypto. And it's tariff city. Trump has put his tariffs all over the place. I've been trying to understand them. I don't. Like, it's more a trade deficit tariff to me. Like, hey, we get this much shit from you and you get this much from us. Let's even that up. Let's get some wacky formula and do tariffs. And everything's in the shitter because of it.
China-United States fight is decades in the making. This has been going on for 20 years. China entered the WTO back in 2001. We've spent a lot of years getting cheap stuff. That is likely going to end, at least for now. iPhones are going to be $2,300. That's the reality. And then look, that's why a lot of the market is selling off, because they're realizing that the global supply chain is about to be completely upended.
So I wanted to share this one with you guys while it was fresh on my mind. And I'll read what I have here. And it says major U.S. retailers like Costco, Walmart, and Target are responding to President Trump's proposed tariffs set to increase on April 2nd. 2025. So that was yesterday. And by pressuring their suppliers, particularly in China, to absorb some or all of the additional costs rather than passing them on to consumers, this strategy aims to keep prices stable for American shoppers, potentially benefiting their financial well-being in the short term. However, this approach carries significant risks. Suppliers operating on slim margins may either comply by lowering prices, potentially compromising product quality, or refuse and lose business, possibly going bankrupt. The tariffs could impose a 20% universal rate, are projected to raise $600 billion annually, allowing tax cuts for Americans by shifting the financial burden to foreign countries. Supporters argue this could lead to long-term economic gains, but economists warn of a worst case scenario.
Hey, Kelly. So we're here in Teterboro, Costco on one side, a Walmart right behind me. We've been talking to a lot of people who in many cases are doing their weekly shopping. And the common refrain we've heard is that prices were already going up and they are worried they could go up even more, and that the consumer is feeling very stressed. We heard from one woman who even said that the same basket of groceries that she regularly buys has now effectively doubled. Take a listen.
I feel like the prices are ridiculous now. It's to the point where it's going to be harder for people to shop because the prices are just insane. Literally, yes, because last week I literally for the same amount of stuff that I bought, I literally paid like maybe $30-40, and now it's like $75 for like 3 bags of groceries. It's like completely insane.
If other nations retaliate, it could wipe out 5.5 million U.S. jobs, raise unemployment to 7% from the 4.1% it's at currently, and reduce GDP by 1.7%, thus
tariffs on all imports that he has described would be a 20% sales tax, in essence, on basic necessities for the average American worker, average American family, totaling almost $4,000 a year. That is no small matter. Here in Pittsburgh,
he wants to impose what is, in effect, a national sales tax on everyday products and basic necessities that we import from other countries. That will devastate Americans. It will mean higher prices on just about every one of your daily needs. Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about he's not, he refused to come? But understand that part of his plan is to put in place a national sales tax of at least 20% on everyday goods and necessities. And that, by economist estimates, independent economists, would cost you as the American consumer and taxpayer an additional $4,000 a year.
I want you to meet.
Dude wants to talk about his plans, which really are about cutting taxes for the richest people. Please do check out the Wall Street Journal or Goldman Sachs or the 16 Nobel laureates or Moody's, who have all analyzed the plans and said mine will strengthen the economy, his will make it weaker.
Kamala Harris said during her campaign that President Trump would impose a 20% sales tax on everyone, warning that this would cost each household at least $4,000 more per year to buy essentials. Items she claimed people were already struggling to afford after the economic policies of Bidenomics or Kamalanomics, which she essentially adopted as her own. But let's pause and unpack this. What exactly is a tariff? And more importantly, how would her economic plan have strengthened the U.S. economy? Or, flipping the script, how is President Trump's approach, particularly his Liberation Day reciprocal tariffs, supposedly weakening it? Harris might have been onto something if she meant her policies would bolster the economies of Mexico, Canada, and China at America's expense. But when it comes to fortifying the U.S. economy, putting more money in Americans' pockets, and making America great again, well, I regret to inform her she's sadly mistaken. First, let's clear the air about tariffs. A tariff isn't a sales tax, no matter how much Harris or the left-wing media try to spin it. A tariff is a fee imposed on goods imported into a country, paid by the importer, not a direct tax slapped on every American consumer at the checkout line. The idea that Trump's proposed tariffs, including the reciprocal ones unveiled on Liberation Day, April 2, 2025, would automatically jack up prices across the board ignores a critical detail. They only apply to foreign-made goods. Products proudly stamped Made in America, right here in the good old US of A, face zero impact on their prices from these tariffs. That's right, zero. A tractor built in Iowa, a shirt sewn in South Carolina, or a widget forged in Pennsylvania won't cost a penny more because of tariffs on imports. This is a simple fact that seems to elude the narrative peddled by Harris and her allies, who'd rather scare people with exaggerated figures than admit the truth. Now, consider Trump's Liberation Day strategy. On April 2, 2025, he announced reciprocal tariffs, 20% on goods from the European Union, 34% on Chinese imports, on top of existing levies, and varying rates on other nations, to level the playing field. The goal? Encourage companies to bring manufacturing back to the U.S., boost domestic production, and create jobs for Americans. If a company wants to avoid tariffs, it's simple. Make your stuff here. When that happens, prices for those American-made goods stay steady, or even drop, because they're not subject to import fees. Meanwhile, foreign competitors might raise their prices to offset the tariffs, making U.S.-produced items more competitive. Far from weakening the economy, this could spark a renaissance in American manufacturing, putting more workers on payrolls and keeping dollars circulating at home. Harris's $4,000 scare tactic assumes everyone's buying exclusively imported goods. But as American production ramps up, that math falls apart. Contrast this with Harris's economic vision. She leaned heavily on Biden's playbook: big government spending, subsidies for select industries, and tax hikes on corporations and high earners. Her pitch included things like $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time homebuyers and an expanded child tax credit. Sounds nice, but where's the money coming from? Higher corporate taxes, she said, promising they'd pay their fair share. Yet, jacking up taxes on businesses often trickles down. Companies either pass costs to consumers through higher prices or cut jobs to protect profits. That's not strengthening the U.S. economy, it's squeezing it. And her criticism of Trump's tariffs as a sales tax conveniently ignored her own administration's retention of Trump-era tariffs on China, plus new ones on electric vehicles and solar panels. If tariffs were so disastrous, why didn't she push to scrap them? The real kicker is this. Trump's tariffs are about reciprocity, matching what other countries charge us. If Canada, Mexico, or China slap hefty duties on American exports, why shouldn't we respond in kind? It's not about punishing Americans. It's about protecting them from unfair trade practices. Harris's approach, on the other hand, seemed content to let foreign nations keep the upper hand, flooding our markets with cheap goods while U.S. factories shuttered. Her plan might have strengthened economies abroad, but it wouldn't have done much for the steelworker in Ohio or the machinist in Michigan. Trump's tariffs, especially with their zero impact on Made in America prices, aim to flip that script, reviving industries, creating jobs, and proving that America can stand tall again. The left-wing media and social media echo chambers can cry tax all they want, chasing likes, clicks, and shares, but the reality is this isn't a false narrative. It's a lifeline for the American worker.
While the retailers' actions might initially protect consumers, the broader economic fallout could quickly reverse these benefits, leading to widespread job losses and reduced spending power. The situation remains fluid, with outcomes hinging on supplier responses and international reactions.
But if you look at the decline of the American worker and the shrinking of the American factory and the loss of American jobs, it is because of China. I've always said we enabled China as a nation, and I'm going back 20 years. I'm not talking about right now. So the fight against China that Donald Trump has brought to the table has been successful and needed to happen. In his first term, tariffs against China were successful. They weren't this extreme. And then you had Joe Biden, who didn't enforce what was supposed to be happening. China was supposed to be buying American agricultural products. You know what? They did not. And he didn't enforce it. So they've had 4 years of a break, and now that break is over for China. As far as the market goes, though, I have to say, yes, there are a lot of big companies that have exposure to China, and that is why the market is very concerned and has every right to be. The bigger picture is that we pull back. I think that, and I believe this, I think reciprocal tariffs would have gone over easier with market participants than the charts that they pulled out into the Rose Garden on Wednesday. When they saw the different percentages, and I think that's when the market said, wait a minute, this is a little more dicey than we wanted to see. But I think the reciprocal would have gone over just a little bit.
Did you say $2,300 iPhones?
Yeah. Automobiles are going to go up $4,000, $5,000, $7,000.
Wow.
But negotiate. Wall Street wants Trump to negotiate. Let's start talking. Let's figure this out.
Yeah, don't drop this guy and make sure you have AppleCare. All right, coming up.
Trump's at the peak of just not giving an F anymore. Bad news stories, doesn't give an F. This is what his team's saying. He's going to do what he's going to do. He's going to do what he promised to do on the campaign trail. The mood in the White House is confidence. The White House says 47's never felt more confident and happy than in pushing tariffs. It's his lifelong aspiration.
What would you do differently, Donald?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country, because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And, hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country.
Behind the scenes, the president's been pounding the fact that the world's been ripping us off for 40 years. And he's on a mission to right those wrongs before the end of his term. The vision? Turn the country into a place with thriving main streets and hometowns where American workers make American products sold to the American public. Doesn't that give you a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling inside? And he wants to make it easier for people to start families, afford homes, and go to college. These tariffs are for the children. The great American president did the same thing just over 100 years ago. The British were dumping cheap manufactured goods into the country, kneecapping industry, and driving down wages. McKinley believed if you didn't have tariffs, the British industry would drown you. Today, it's not just the British. The world's drowning us. The president's mentality is, if you want access to the greatest market in the world, the American market, you're going to have to pay up. Kind of like a real estate fee. And thinks we're suckers not to be charging people. But Wall Street thinks they're the suckers.
I feel like a sucker tonight because I am not a free trader and I do not believe in free trade. And I was just as tough, if not tougher than his people, but they screwed it up. I was very let down as someone who really truly believes that free trade is awful for the American working person. This is what they came up with. Jeez, come on, have some gumption, have some math.
Kramer feels like a sucker. Now he knows how his audience feels.
Again, I apologize. Listen, 57 years after the assassination of Dr. King, and Dr. King talked about that stone of hope. And it's that stone of hope that gives me a fire in my belly each and every morning. It's that stone of hope that allows me to wake up and to stand to Donald Trump and to say, Donald Trump, I'm not afraid of you. It's that stone of hope. It's that stone of hope that gives me power. That's that stone of hope and the belief in each and every one of you to let you know that I'm not going to allow my ancestors, all of those who died for me to be in this position, I am not going to disgrace them and disappoint them. I am going to use the law both as a sword and as a shield and challenge Donald Trump. And each and every time he issues an illegal executive order, I am going to stand up to him because he represents to me sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. Sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. And so DEI, as far as I am concerned, is more than about just black people. Let's be honest.
That's right.
DEI is about paid parental leave. DEI is about disabled children. DEI includes a number of categories. So when they talk about DEI, let them know that they're not only coming after us, but they're coming after all of us. And we've got to stand together, a stand in community, stand with this great organization under the leadership of our civil rights leader, Reverend Al Sharpton, who has been a bright and shining light in the darkness. But I don't know about you. It's that stone of hope that inspires me each and every day. And listen, faith and fear can never share the same space. And so I'm covered by the blood. And I'm not afraid of Donald Trump. You can come after me, but no enemy, nothing formed against me will perish. Nothing formed against me. Nothing formed against me. Nothing formed against me.
All right, all right. Got off their face. And you thought you could preach, huh?
Listen, I don't know what the hell Tisha James is talking about. I don't know what blood she's covered by, but as she says here, I'm not afraid of Donald Trump. You can come after me, but nothing formed against me will perish. But nothing formed against me will perish. That kind of seems like an oxymoron, doesn't it? I wonder if treadmills are formed against her. But either way, I don't think you should be afraid of President Trump. You should be afraid of the law. And the fact that you've been weaponizing the Department of Justice as your own personal, I don't know, like pet project in this vendetta against President Trump for the longest. And I'm not quite sure how you haven't quite figured out yet that everyone's pretty much moved on and figured out that this is a terrible witch hunt to be involved in and go down, to the point of which even Mayor Eric Adams, for which he was never against Trump, even woke up and says, you know what? I'm done with you dumbass Democrats. I'm out of here. Fuck this shit. But either way, we got more important conversations to discuss here. Perhaps maybe from the perspective of news that is going to go underreported, if not unreported. But fortunately, we have Response 47, which if you're not following Response 47 on X, then what are you waiting on? By way of Fox News, particularly in this instance, Fox Business, highlighting the benefits, the pros, not just the cons of Trump tariffs.
The shrimpers here like tariffs because they say they will save their jobs and save their entire industry. We have to remember that more than 90% of shrimp consumed in the United States is imported from overseas, and the American shrimpers say they just can't compete. Let's bring in Leanne Bosarge, who is the 5th generation of her family to be involved in the commercial fishing industry. Leanne, what would happen to American shrimping without tariffs?
Well, the U.S. domestic shrimp industry has been on a downward trajectory for decades now as a direct result of the unfair trade in the overseas aquaculture industry for growing shrimp overseas. And these tariffs threw us the lifeline that we needed to hopefully live to fight another day in our industry in this country.
Granted, Democrats and the media, primarily CNN, MSNBC, the like, are going to want to present this as higher costs for Americans, okay?
Trump just raised your taxes more than anyone else in history. He just put tariffs on pretty much everything that you buy. Your groceries, your gas, your car, the clothes you wear, everything is about to get a lot more expensive because of Trump. It's the largest tax hike in the history of this country. The stock market is cratering. Companies are saying that they're going to be laying off people. It's a mess. Pretty much every economist in the world knows that this is a bad idea, but he's doing it anyway. Because when small businesses suffer, the biggest businesses in the country can then buy them up. So the richest people get richer while you suffer. It's the heist of the century, the great American scam.
I have a way with words. A negative way or a positive way? Because I don't really know where to start with all that. That's the problem. So there's this guy on TikTok who's TikTok viral, I guess, whatever, for saying that Trump just raised your taxes more than anyone else in his history has raised your taxes. But he didn't really give any proof of that being accurate. He didn't really give any previous tax raises. I feel like this guy is literally only parroting all the things that the left spews all the time, knowing that the algorithm's going to push it. He might not even believe half the crap that's coming out of his mouth, but he knows that the algorithm is more left-leaning, so they're going to push it because they like the negativity towards Trump. And he's talking about taxes and stuff, but then he's not giving you any actual information. All he's doing is playing on fears of people and trying to make it emotional so that people, yeah, Trump did this and he's bad, big orange man bad, Cheeto man bad, but there's no actual proof of bad. That's the problem. So, you know, creators out there can make the videos that are going to give them the actual truth about what's going on with the numbers and the statistics and the whatever else, with the receipts to back it up, the visual proof of it, the audio proof of it, whatever it is. And the algorithms in most places are going to be like, yeah, but that's not divisive enough, so we don't want to do that. And then you have people out there, I saw a TikTok this morning where this person made this video comparing Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy and their birth dates and their vice presidents and all these different things, and to make it look like there's this weird conspiracy assassination, like all these different things that were supposed to be weirdly identical. And you look at it and you go, well, I literally have to do just a very small hint of research to realize that's not true. That's not true. That's a lie. That's fully inaccurate. But the problem is people see it and they go, wow, nobody would ever lie to us. This must all be accurate. And then they take it and run with it. And that's how they base their thoughts on Trump. That's how they base their thoughts on, you know, the United States in general. That's how they base their thoughts on the good and the bad based off of videos that they see that they haven't even taken half a second to verify for themselves. Just a bunch of sheep running around pissed off at everything because they let another sheep convince them that they should be mad. Absolutely stupid.
But here's the deal. As I told you guys earlier, there's two types of people. There's a type of person who doesn't like being lied to, and then there's a type of people who don't like being told the truth. And if you had been told the truth 4 years ago that you were going to experience higher prices, You weren't going to like that truth either, but instead you were lied to. And you were told that inflation is transitory and it will be under control and yada, yada, yada. Biden lied. A book came out about it. Kamala Harris is a piece of shit. Barack Obama didn't want to endorse her, and so on and so forth. We'll talk about that later. But instead, Trump's a man, and he just tells you up front, okay, yeah, we went through surgery. The patient's doing fine. But you know what happens after surgery? You need to recover, and it takes time. And this is surgery of an illness that we have been suffering from for not just 4 years, for many, many decades. So I expect the recovery to be lengthy. However, the fact of the matter is that technically prices aren't going up. Technically, prices are staying the same. And there's also industries, like I'm going to show you here in just a second, who are thrilled at the fact that tariffs are introduced and we are going to once again get back to a point of free trade.
I told the president that I will be working hard for the next month to earn the right to represent Canada in those discussions, to get the best deal for Canada under the new U.S. approach. At the same time, Canada must be looking elsewhere to expand our trade, to build our economy, and to protect our sovereignty. Canada is ready to take a leadership role in building a coalition of like-minded countries who share our values. We believe in international cooperation. We believe in the free and open exchange of goods, services, and ideas. And if the United States no longer wants to lead, Canada will.
Canada can play all the games that Canada wants to play, but the intent here, which like a lot of other countries are going to figure out, is to negotiate and make things fair, for which they have been unfair for the longest, and now everybody wants to scream and holler at the top of their lungs because Trump's leveling the playing field. And by the way, EU, good luck. Your threats are meaningless.
I know that many of you feel let down by our oldest ally. Yes, we must brace for the impact that this will inevitably have. Europe has everything it needs to make it through the storm. We are in this together. If you take on one of us, you take on all of us. So we will stand together and stand up for each other. Our unity is our strength. Europe has the largest single market in the world, 450 million consumers. That is our safe harbor in tumultuous times. And Europe will stand at the side of those directly impacted. We have already announced new measures to support the steel and cars sectors. Last week, we limited the amount of steel that can be imported to Europe tariff-free. This will give more breathing space to these strategic industries. Now, we will also convene strategic dialogues with the steel, the automotive, and the pharmaceutical sectors, and others will follow. Europe stands together for our business, for our citizens, and for all Europeans, and we will continue to build bridges with all those that, like us, care about fair and rules-based trade as a basis for shared prosperity. Thank you.
Everybody knows, and if you haven't figured it out yet, rely on America, and better yet now, Trump, for your survival and your safety and protection. Don't throw that away on a whim, because it'll be very hard to get it back if you could even. But, like I said, prices aren't necessarily going up. Let's just say American-made products cost more than those imported, for instance, from China. Tariffs introduced now make the Chinese products cost more than American-made products. This is all assuming that the Chinese supplier, vendor, manufacturer, retailer wants to increase their price to maintain their profit. Granted, these tariffs could keep prices the same and they could lower their profit. That's a possibility too, but odds are that won't happen.
So do you want to know the part that they're not telling you about tariffs? Here's the reality that nobody's talking about. Nobody. This lighter costs $25 in America to buy an American-made product, okay? China makes one, sells it for $20 here in America. Out of that $20, $5 goes to whoever in America sells it. $15 of it goes back to China. You buy the $25 one in America, all $25 stays in America. So now we want to say, let's balance this out, and we're going to put a 50% tariff on Chinese goods. Now this lighter costs $30 to sell in the United States. Now you have the US-made one at $25. It is cheaper. It's more expensive in the big picture, I get it. But it's now cheaper, so people are going to buy the American-made one. 100% of the $25 that you spend stays in America, stays here. The demand increases for that business has to hire employees. When many businesses hire employees, that creates a supply shortage of employees, which make wages go up. Is this more expensive for the consumer in the short term? Yes, but you're getting a better product. You're getting a better product for your money, and the money is staying local. Okay, you're not funding these other countries and their businesses. That is the purpose behind all of this. Will we have a recession? Yes. Will prices go up in the short term? Yes. But the lagging effect is all of that money now stays here with us. It's not leaving the country, which gives us more money in the United States to go around for everybody. Of course, every nation in the world is going to say, we're being bad neighbors and bad business partners. Well, of course, we've made them rich. And now we as a people are suffering. We want our money back. Why is that so hard? It's not ideal, but it works and it makes sense. And I'm not a pro-Trumper at all, but I believe in it. I'm a business owner. I know how it works. Have a great day.
So the Chinese, let's just say, for instance, Chinese raised their price. The American-made product did not change its price. And in fact, now it is less expensive than the Chinese-made product. And so the prices haven't really gone up. Now, what you choose to buy and purchase and things like that, that may change, which would then perhaps maybe see an increase in your expenditure. But again, this is all relative. And the big picture here that I think a lot of people, primarily the left, is missing is that the intention here is for a future of prosperity, of fair trade, and self-reliance of products made in America, and better yet, jobs kept in this country. So to everybody out there who's okay with these tariffs and the short-term pain in the grand scheme of things that it may bring, you've got it. You're good. Don't worry. Life's going to be good to you. To everybody else, hopefully you wake up soon. Hopefully you figure this out. Otherwise, you're screwed. You're doomed. And for Ford, I like Ford's move initially, right off the bat, right out the gate. Almost made me go buy a Mustang yesterday. Who knows? There might still be enough time. Might go get one today.
Exactly right. For the next couple of months, we're going to offer our customers the same deal that our employees get. And as you say, that's worth thousands of dollars. You come into our store, you get employee pricing. This is kind of to call a little bit of a timeout. We've heard some uncertainty from our customers, and we want them to be assured that Ford, the most American auto company, is going to do right by them, as are our dealers. We make the most cars here. We employ the most. We export the most. And so we here at Ford, we're in a good position to address customers' concern and give them a really great deal on a great vehicle.
So that's great.